Good morning, Sonder fam. Happy Sunday morning. Welcome to everyone who is here, ready to set up their third week of September. I can't believe we're already rocking and rolling into that third week. September is just flying right by. And I saw some folks saying they were excited having lovely fall weather, and other folks saying that they were not having, they're still in summer where they are, so still very warm. I am here in Denver, Colorado. It's about 54 degrees this morning, and so it's been pretty lovely. It's been definitely kind of cool, but that doesn't mean that we won't have some freakish warm up later on. Who knows? We could even do that in October, and it could also snow in October here in Denver. So you just never know. You can never, I feel like I can never pack away like summer clothes and winter clothes. It's kind of like you have to have everything out all the time to be able to dress appropriately, right? We do a lot of layers here in Colorado. So my name's Maya. If I haven't met you yet, welcome. I will be leading you through the weekly setup. Just a few little housekeeping tips to make sure you set that chat to everyone. Zoom has an obnoxious tendency, especially if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, to flip back to host and panelist. And when that happens, the only people that will see what you write are myself and my fabulous co-host Bailey, who is coming to us from Tennessee. She's going to pop on and give a little wave. She just got back from Disney World. Where she said it was lovely, but it was very warm, super humid. So she's glad to be back in Tennessee where it's not as humid, which kind of cracks me up because I feel like Tennessee is pretty humid, but obviously not as much as it was down in Florida. So she will be helping in the chat if you have any questions, dropping in some links, those kinds of things, if you need anything as we go through this hour together. And just a few community guidelines. You want to make sure that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and others. We want to make sure that this is a safe and supportive space. We ask that there's no promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy. Obviously, no hate speech or bullying. Any of those, we try to limit the repetitive product and accessory questions. Obviously, it's fine to ask folks what kind of pins they use that don't bleed through or where they got their stickers. The best place for that, though, is in our Sonder Club app, where that way folks can give you some links and pictures, and you can get all those different ideas for what everyone's doing. Any of those customer care inquiries, like you need to update shipping or billing information, those kinds of things, those all go to hello@silkandsonder.com. Bailey and I don't have access to your account, so we can't fix those things for you, but the headquarters team at hello@silkandsonder.com will be happy to do that. Just keep in mind they're a Monday through Friday, Pacific Coast, 9 to 5 group. And so sometimes if you need to email them on the weekends, it takes a little bit longer for them to get back to you, but they should get back to you. And then ultimately, just remember that these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. And we have such a lovely, supportive, creative, helpful, fun community. But ultimately, you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if you're just not feeling a particular thing that we're doing, you're just not really, it's not your jam that particular morning, do whatever you need to do. Maybe you spend some time on the coloring page. Maybe you're just taking notes. Maybe you're just hanging out in the chat and chatting with your friends. If anyone is new here, you will notice that the chat sometimes gets rolling pretty fast. We usually have over 100 people here, so don't let that overwhelm you. You usually can kind of click within the chat and kind of scroll up and down so that you can read those things. Some people just ignore the chat completely because it's a little too much, and they focus on their journal, focus on setting it up. Some people love to hang out in the chat. They just take notes and then they work on setting up their journal later. It really is up to you for whatever you want. And we try to do socials on the weekly setup socials on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, just so that you have an opportunity to potentially come 3 times. So you could always do one time where you hang out in the chat and take notes, another time where you focus on the journal, another time just to listen. Again, it's totally up to you, all part of your membership. And we are so, so happy that you are here. So this month's theme, hopefully you have been enjoying or at least kind of getting into and exploring this idea of bravery. It was kind of fun to come into bravery off of enchantment, which was our theme last month. And I think you'll enjoy the theme next month. I won't spoil it for anyone who doesn't know yet, but I think it's a lovely flow with those three. And then I have a good Brene Brown quote here that says, "Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light." And being brave doesn't mean being fearless. It means taking actions despite the fear. And then I also like this: her soul is fierce, her heart is brave, and her mind is strong. So again, this month has really been kind of this exploration of what does bravery mean. Sometimes bravery is very small things. Sometimes bravery is speaking up when normally you wouldn't have said something. Even if it's like at a restaurant and you asked for something with no onions and then they brought it to you and the onions were there. Sometimes it's brave to say, um, uh, I need it without onions, right? Can you please, in a nice way, but in a brave way? Because I know some people that I'm friends with, even when they ask for things specifically in restaurants and then it comes the other way, they won't say anything. They just won't eat it. And then we all feel bad, right? So sometimes that's being brave, right? So love the idea this month of kind of exploring and digging into that. And then I also came across this. I shared this last week, but I wanted to share it again because I know some people may not have been here. And even the folks that were here, sometimes it's good to hear things again. Came across a book that said working out will make you feel weak when it's actually making you feel stronger. Learning new things will make you feel dumb when it's actually making you smarter. Oh, stronger was the first one. Sorry, I think I said smarter there. Investing in yourself will make you feel broke when it's actually making you rich. Facing your fears will make you feel terrified when it's actually making you braver. Never hold yourself back. Strive to be better tomorrow than you were today and thank yourself later. Right. So I think this is take a little screenshot of this. I always tell people during these socials, you want to take some screenshots of the things that you really like. And I think I did end up posting it in Sonder Club last week for folks that wanted to see it. But I think it's a really good reminder that sometimes in the act of doing the thing, it doesn't feel like you're braver or richer or smarter or stronger. It just feels scary, right? Or you feel dumb or you feel weak or those kinds of things. But really, the act of doing that has those long-term gains that you will see later. So, good reminder for all of us. So our agenda for this morning, we're going to do our bravery mind map. We always spend a little bit of time digging into the theme of the month, have a little prompt, a little question for you there. And I will be honest, these this month have been pretty deep, pretty intense. And so as you start to work on that, if it's feeling like a little too much, just take a screenshot and work on it later. It's also really good to maybe work on it throughout the week so that you don't feel kind of that time pressure because we do have a limited amount of time here. So want to make sure that we have time to kind of get through everything. Then we're going to work on our rosebud thorn, which is on page 36, a little reflection on the week. And then we'll do those weekly setup pages, which I believe are on page, oh, where are they? 40 and 41. So is that right? Yeah. So I always use these two little cartoons here to remind us of a couple of points. First of all, there's room for you here just as you are. If things are going great, if you're having a lot of successes, you want to share those, you want to celebrate. We love to celebrate with our Sonder fam. So share those. But we know that life is not always a series of ups. We have those downs, we have those bumps, we have those tough things. And so we're here for that as well. You can share that as well, just as you are. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I don't want to be a downer, or oh, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, right? That's not what this space is about. We hold space for everyone wherever they are in the roller coaster of life, right? And then the way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. No one can tell you, oh, you shouldn't be mad about that, or that shouldn't upset you, or oh, you should be happy for this, right? Our feelings are just our feelings, and that's how they are. And we're here to feel them with you and to take some time to recognize that. And sometimes that can be very, very important to do. So on a blank page in your journal, if you've been with us, you probably already have the first two prompts done. And a lot of folks like to use that back page. Again, you can also use the weekly scratch pad to answer these questions. We're exploring those different aspects of bravery through our writing. So remembering that bravery isn't always a loud roar. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper, an inner compass guiding us through life's challenges. It's the courage to be vulnerable, to embrace the unknown, and to trust in our strength. So our prompts are really designed to help you listen to your inner voice, maybe unlock some hidden truths, and cultivate a garden of courage within your heart. And that's why a lot of folks are here with Silk and Sonder, is really to learn more about themselves, right? So we're going to begin our journey together here. We're on week 3. If you didn't do week 1 or week 2, you can just take a snapshot of that, and you can always go back and watch the recordings from previous weeks. So week 3 question asks, how does the vastness of the ocean mirror your inner strength? Right? So kind of think about that for just a minute. So imagine, you can close your eyes and kind of think about this. Imagine before you lies an endless ocean stretching out onto the horizon. The waves crash gently, their rhythm calming yet powerful. The ocean is vast, much like your own capacity for courage. It feels infinite, full of potential. Imagine standing at the shore, the tide coming in, and you are called to dive deeper, to swim farther than you ever have before. What would it feel like to surrender to the pull of the ocean, trusting its current to guide you? Write about the depths of courage within you and what it might feel like to dive into your fears, knowing that the ocean of bravery always flows within. So I love this idea of the ocean of bravery that is within us and flows within us. And maybe it ebbs and flows, just like the ocean. So I'm going to play a little bit of music, let you work on this. Feel free to share in the chat. Again, if this prompt is a little too intense or a little too deep, you screenshot it, maybe jot down some notes about it that you're going to think about later, and then we can move on to the other parts. And Bailey has a great suggestion. If the idea, the metaphor of the ocean doesn't really resonate with you, you could always think about space exploration and the night sky, right? Really kind of thinking about what that would be like. So you could kind of replace it from that. Yeah. And the ebb and flow of bravery, right? Sometimes we feel very brave, and sometimes the bravery, where is our bravery, right? We kind of shrink. And so I think that's a nice metaphor of that kind of what that flow feels like. So you might kind of want to write about the flow, maybe a time when it felt like it was flowing, it was really there, and then other times where there was definitely an ebb. So I will be quiet. I will play some music for you, and then we'll check back in. Right. So thank you all for sharing in the chat kind of what you're thinking about this idea of the ocean. I saw a lot of folks talking about um, that they liked the ocean metaphor, just really thinking of every time they go to the ocean, kind of how connected they feel. There's a lot of research that says being by water helps us feel better. It helps us de-stress. Obviously, not in times when some folks were talking about some of the really bad storms that can happen on the water and happen in the ocean. Obviously, that's stressful, but I love the idea of really kind of thinking about how that ebb and flow, what that looks like, and how that relates to bravery. I also appreciate a lot of folks who went with the space metaphor, right? Really kind of thinking of the vastness of outer space, not really knowing what's there, and really kind of knowing what. How they're not going to know how brave they are until the situation arises, right? So kind of thinking of not knowing what's out there and what that looks like. So thank you all for sharing. Again, this is a good one to really kind of reflect on all week and think about, maybe how that ocean of bravery is flowing for you for the week, what that looks like, and how things can how things can change up and how you can maybe kind of go with the flow, right? So let's go over to our rosebud thorn activity, and that's going to be on page 36. We do this every week. We spend a little bit of time reflecting. Oops, I went too far. Reflecting on the previous week, what kinds of things happened. And so we have our thorn, that's something that's challenging or stressful, something you could use some support with right now. Our bud is something that you look forward to or that gives you hope, motivation, and inspiration right now. And the rose is something that you're grateful for, a highlight, something that's very positive. So for me, unfortunately, the new school district that I now work in, I just started in August, Jefferson County. That was where the high school, Evergreen High School, was that had the incident this week that's been very stressful, and just like, oh, just not a good thing, not a good thing, right? So that's definitely been a thorn. My bud, something I'm looking forward to is I'm getting a pedicure later today, and the rose, all these kind of tie in, right? I did a lot of self-care that was already scheduled, but it came along at a good time. I had my hair cut and colored on Wednesday. I had haircut and color on Thursday, facial on Friday, and then I had my massage yesterday. So that definitely has been helpful. So let us know in the chat if you would like your thorn, your bud, or your rose, or all of those. Thank you all for the good wishes for the community. And I will play a little music and then we'll check back in. Great. Thank you all for reflecting on those rosebuds and thorns of the week. I know sometimes there's more roses than thorns, and sometimes there's more thorns than roses. Sometimes one thing can become all three of those. They can be the rose, the bud, and the thorn. Um, so just kind of thinking of all of you with all the things you shared, appreciate that sharing. And it's always important to just spend just a few minutes to think back on that previous week, what happened, and kind of what that looked like. And by the way, these pages are really good to go back to when you do your monthly reflection. When you reflect back on the month, these can be really helpful to help you remember. So thank you for just taking a few minutes to think about those and for sharing there in the chat. Now we're going to move on into our weekly planner. So this is week 38 of the year for those of you keeping track. And we are on page 40 and 41. We're going to go over each of these little areas. And then give you a little bit of time to work on those. So the first little box there up at the top on page 40 asks us how we want to feel. So we're really kind of thinking about how we want to approach the next week, that feeling that we want to have. How do we want to maybe show up for others, show up for ourselves? So I have kind of a little list of different words here like confident, compassionate, powerful, adventurous, vibrant, independent, intuitive, radiant, calm, creative, abundant, alive, worthy, fulfilled. Think about it, could be one word, it could be several words, it could be a set of words. You can see one person has a list of each day how they want to feel, right? Some people use stickers, some people put in their mantra or their affirmation, some people will put in a picture, maybe it's something you want to focus on, maybe it's a quote that you really like. I found a nice quote that I kind of liked as I've been feeling kind of like I need more time to do things, that said, I don't need more time, I need more clarity. So I've been really kind of trying to focus on what's important and not trying to do everything. There was another really good quote that I like that says, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And sometimes I get caught up in that, like, I need to do everything, I need to do all the things. And so it's kind of like really trying to focus. So maybe another way, I want to feel focused for the week. And I see some people kind of putting in their feeling into the chat, confident and hopeful. Just kind of, you can just kind of pop the word in there. And then as you're thinking of it, and then I like to kind of tie this to the three goals, your weekly major three goals. And first of all, keep in mind, you don't have to have three goals. You might have one goal that you want to focus on. You might have two. We don't recommend more than three because sometimes it can be a little difficult to focus if there's more than three. And then I put this in last time. I've been kind of putting this in because I think this helps people sometimes. The difference between being busy and productive, right? So being busy, you're treating all tasks equally. Productive, you're prioritizing tasks based on impact and effort. Busy is multitasking, but productive is focusing on one task at a time. And if you're one of those people who you're like, I'm a multitasker, I love to multitask, I highly recommend trying out the focus piece to see kind of how that feels to really focus on one task at a time and how much more you could get done in one specific area. Busy sacrifices quantity over quality, whereas productive focuses on the quality over the quantity. Busy, where you do everything yourself. Productive delegates when possible. Busy feels stressed and overwhelmed all the time. Productive feels accomplished and fulfilled. So I think that's kind of a nice reminder of the difference between busy and productive. Comes from the Silk and Sonder Instagram account. And then as you're thinking of these three goals, you might want to go back and look at your September intentions on page 9, your monthly habit tracker on page 11. How's that going? I'll be honest, I set mine up and then I haven't been very good about tracking. I need to get back on the bandwagon of doing that. Maybe you set your goals through the lens of bravery. Maybe you do some no goals like no alcohol or no doom scrolling. I saw some folks talking about how social media can be a bit much, and this week it definitely, I feel like, has been a bit much. So put the phone away, stop the social media. Maybe that means deleting the apps from your phone. Maybe you're trying to work on reducing that impulse spending. I'm horrible at that. I see something that looks fun and I get it. So maybe that's one of your goals. Maybe you need to look at some previous weeks or journals to see what outstanding goals you might still have that you want to accomplish. Or maybe you want to frame your goals around some sort of a personal challenge. So Maybe it's a fitness challenge, maybe a cleaning or decluttering challenge, self-care. We're getting into the colder months now, so maybe you want to do like a soup challenge. You want to try a new kind of soup or make a big pot of soup for the week that you want to have. And then this is a fun one that I found, this idea of mustard, ketchup, mayo, and pickle. So I had found this, a lot of times teachers use this for kiddos, but there's the mustard are the things that you must do. The ketchup are the things you need to catch up on. Mayo are things you may do, things you might do for the week. And then pickle is a pick one. So you have some things there that you could pick from. Isn't that cute? So this, Jennifer O did this one of our other fabulous facilitators. And I just thought it was so cute. I had to share because she did that for her 3 goals. You could also put this in your to-do section if you wanted to as well. But I thought this was a cute idea of this idea of, mustard, ketchup, mayo, and pickle idea. So kind of a fun way to set that up with some colors. And then here's some other examples of things folks have done with their 3 goals. Maybe you have a mind, body, and a spirit. Yeah, Carol said, I think it's a calm version of the Eisenhower matrix. I love that, Carol. That's a great, that's a nice idea of how it kind of is similar to the Eisenhower matrix, but a little more calm. Enjoying time with family. You could make a little bingo in there. That's fun. Maybe it's 3 new words. Maybe it's some movies and TV shows. Maybe it's a playlist. Maybe some fun activities, something outside, maybe some quotes. Again, that mini bingo board. So I'll let you work on the feelings and the goals. I'll play a little bit of music and then we'll check back in and keep moving on. All right, good job spending a little bit of time thinking about how you want to feel, thinking about your goals, and sometimes really kind of thinking about how accomplishing those goals will help you with that feeling, have that feeling throughout the week. So I saw some folks talking about they kind of divide this up into a home, work, and me goals. I think that's a great way to kind of think about different ways to set that up. There was the one that has the left brain, right brain, no brain ideas. I think that's a fun way to do it as well. So thank you all for sharing in the chat as you work on that. Now let's talk about those to-dos, and we'll also talk about the box underneath that, the habits and activities, or habities, as I called it one time because I was talking too fast. So our to-dos, I found these two infographics. I've been finding a lot of really fun ones on LinkedIn lately that have been really kind of interesting. So just some different habits, different kinds of to-dos, different kinds of activities, things like waking up at the same time every day. I've been trying to kind of focus on that even on the weekends, to kind of waking up and going to bed at the same time is supposed to be a little bit helpful. Moving your body daily, going to bed on time, choosing whole unprocessed foods, taking 2 to 5 minutes of silence, exposing yourself to cold. I'm not a fan of this one. I know people keep talking about like the cold shower at the end or the cold plunge. I'm just not a fan of that. I don't know, but maybe it's good for me. Maybe I should try it. Scan for stress triggers, get morning sunlight, laugh at least once, think about something long term, do one small thing you enjoy, and drink water first thing. Those are all kind of good things to help with our health. And then I liked this other one of the 12 secrets of people who never seem stressed. Notice it says they never seem stressed. It doesn't mean they're not stressed. But the idea of prepping the night before, that's been something I've been doing with my new job because I have this commute now. I used to work 7 miles away from home. Now I work 27 miles away from home. So morning commute is nice because I leave early in the morning, but still really, if I prep everything the night before, then it makes the morning so much nicer. So it's always kind of like that nighttime prep time. I like to arrive early, talks about always arriving early, scheduling what matters, reset quickly, automate repeats, keep one list, capture it later, leave white space, choose your top three, right? Just like our top three goals, we have our top three, build in buffers, giving that time in between meetings to stretch, syncing your calendars, not having a bunch of different places you're trying to look to see what you need to do, and then protecting deep work, right? Like that focus. So those are kind of some fun things to think of as you are setting up those to-dos and those habits and activities. Again, someone was mentioning the Eisenhower matrix, right? With the ketchup, mustard, mayo, or the mustard, ketchup, mayo, pickles thing, right? So this is another idea of you're going to decide, delegate, and delete. Using the Pomodoro technique to help focus. That I find really helpful is setting that timer for 25 minutes for whatever task it is I want to work on. And then I only work on that task for 25 minutes. Timer goes up, and then I take a 5-minute break. Again, I set a little timer. And for every 4 of those you do, you can take a longer 15 to 30-minute break. Honestly, sometimes I don't do that part. I just kind of do the different pieces there. Maybe you want to have to-dos, you have a self, home, and work, some things you need to do, or some things you want to start doing in September. Maybe you want to put your phone down. A lot of you were talking about kind of the phone problem. Here's some things you can do instead of being on your phone. This idea that your brain is a supercomputer and we need to update the software by reading books, podcasts, and having experiences. We need to protect its battery with our sleep, connecting with nature, and a little technology detox. And then maybe you want to repurpose it with things you don't want to do, things you want to be, how you want to be. You want to be grounded, compassionate, reflective, active, and delighted. Maybe, again, bingos, right? We love a good bingo board. Maybe some weekly self-care ideas, things you want to take a look at. And then those habits and activities, because some people kind of go between the to-do list and the habits and activities. So kind of see what makes the most sense for you. But you can see these are things that maybe you want to just do a couple times during the week. It's different from the monthly habit wheel, where those are things we want to do every day. These are things that maybe happen a couple times during the week. So So I like the daily ways to boost your knowledge if you're working on that. Notice you don't have to fill in every single line, and you don't even have to fill in the to-do section. Maybe you do some little stickers or something like that, right? So lots of different fun ways that you can take a look at this. Whoops. So I'm just going to cycle through these. I'll let you work on your to-dos and your habits and activities. Let us know what things you're maybe picking for that. And I did see Bailey was popping in the link in the chat for the recordings because, yes, so we go over a lot and it's a short amount of time. So it's always good sometimes to go back and you can watch these again with different facilitators or maybe even different weeks. The weekly setup is basically the same thing, with just some different ideas. So fun way to kind of to take a look at that. So again, I'll play just a little bit of music here and then we'll check back in. All right. So I saw lots of good ideas for things that you're going to do with that to do and those weekly habits. I saw someone asking, they didn't have their journal yet. And so they said, how should I, kind of go about this? And I would recommend definitely screenshotting some of these, watching some of the socials in the link that Bailey sent. And this one will be posted. Usually it takes a few days for the current ones to get posted, but they will be there. And then lots of sticky notes, lots of little ideas and kind of seeing how you can set that up. And then when you get your journal, you can transfer all of that into there. So definitely a good idea to work on that. So lots of great ideas for different ways that you can use this section. I was trying to see if there was anything else. Yeah, like the self, home, and work to do model is good. A lot of folks talking about giving themselves a little more compassion, a little more self-care, finding different things to read, different things to listen to. The podcast, I will say that's one thing that's been nice with my commute is that I've been listening to a lot more audiobooks. So that's always kind of fun. Maybe you can find a fun audiobook. So lots of good ideas, lots of ways to use these pages. Let's turn now over to that second page on page 41. And this is fun. Katie, one of our other facilitators, likes to call this the B side. Sometimes, on a record, you only listen to the A side, but every once in a while, you'll flip it over to the B side. So this is a side that I think is pretty heavily repurposed by folks. It really depends on what you've got going on during the week, what kinds of things you need to keep track of, what kinds of things you want to plan. So the meal plan, again, this is a pretty big space. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this. Obviously, you can plan out your meals or you can track your meals. Some people like to not only track what they're eating, but track how they're feeling if they're trying to keep track of some different symptoms like migraines or, some digestive issues kind of thing to kind of keep track to see if they can see any sort of a pattern there. Exercise tracker or a cleaning plan, a gratitude log. You can do an end of the day little mini reflection there. You can wardrobe planner. I definitely use this for packing. When I'm going to go on a trip, which I will at the end of the month, I always use these boxes to plan what I'm going to wear or what I would need for each specific day. It really helps with not overpacking as I am wont to do. Plus, then I make sure I have all the things that I need. Could do our daily affirmation there, a weekly favorite thing or a daily favorite thing. Symptom health tracker, right? So some folks keeping track of some different things there. Again, that daily debrief or a daily scripture, a daily quote that you want to take care of. Slow down menu. I thought this was a nice idea as we get into the fall months. I think it's a good time to start to slow down to get ready for winter. So some different ideas of some things from Silk and Saunders Instagram, things you can do to brighten your space or take care of your body or doing something fun. You can kind of come up with that. I thought the idea of a slow down menu worked good there in the meal plan. So a fun way to keep track of that. Chore list, appointments, a mood tracker with some songs, my day in a song. That's a fun way to do that. Journal prompts and responses. Notice the water drops kind of coloring in. So they're trying to keep track of if they're drinking water or coffee or tea or soda. And then the next little box, and I'll go over all of these here on page 41, and then you can work as needed. The mind body health list or mind body health plan, the idea of each day kind of coming up with something for your mind or your body. So here's some examples of things that folks have done. Again, we've got a little chore bingo, right? So somebody kind of repurposed that. One person did something I did well this week in some ways I loved others this week. You can build your Sunday night routine or even any kind of nightly routine, right? Again, like I was saying, that kind of planning for the next day. So doing things like getting my vitamins ready, getting my lunch packed, getting my coffee maker ready to go, cleaning off the countertop, planning out the what I'm going to wear, if I'm going to go to the gym, if I need to pack my gym bag, all of those kinds of things can happen. So you could plan that out there in this section. You could have a fun little alliteration there: Meatless Monday, TV Free Tuesday, Walking Wednesday, Thoughtful Thursday, Family Fun Friday, Sabbath Saturday, and Self-Care Sunday. Those are kind of fun. Christina's saying she turns hers into an art space. So stickers, doodles, whatever inspires her for the week. I love that idea as well. Our shopping list, again, you could put that for things that you need to buy. If you need to go and get some autumn decorations, right? We've been having fun at the Lowe's and Home Depot because they always have such a immense amount of Halloween decorations, yard decorations, and some of them are really cool, but some of them are also very expensive. So trying to limit the number of the impulse buys we get there. Maybe you want to do, maybe you're filling your own cup. So things that will fill your cup, right? So rest, movement, nature, creation, alone time, connection, nourishment, and reflection. Maybe it's a nice little quote. Maybe it's one of those fun self-care bingos, maybe some intentions that you have set for the week. maybe a reminder of no unnecessary spending. And I love the one that says stay out of the dollar store. They changed it to an unshopping list, kind of a fun way to do that. A packing list, some chores that you need to get done. And then that little I am loving box is just something that you can kind of fill in with whatever you are loving for the week. Maybe you fill it out now, maybe you fill it out midweek. Things like I'm loving myself by, I like that. That was a fun way to do it. Daily rituals, books and tea, creativity, just thinking of those different things. So I'll be quiet, play a little bit of music, cycle through these as you get ideas for what you want to do with these sections. And again, sometimes people will just leave these completely blank, like they use it maybe to take notes or something during the week and they don't fill it in. So it really is for whatever you need it for as you go forward and think about what you need for the week. And this is a great place to experiment too, right? See if something works for you. You're going to track something or plan something. If it doesn't work this week, then you can change it up next week, right? No problem with that. So again, play a little bit of music. We'll check back in and then we'll wrap things up. Hey, thank you for sharing in the chat different ways that you're using each of these sections. And I appreciate um, Carla's talking about being a little frustrated with this idea of the refrigerator's too full. So her husband is saying, like, let's buy a little refrigerator to put more stuff in. And it's like, wait, no, maybe we could just clean out the one we have. It's kind of like I remember at one point my husband and I were having a discussion about, do we want to get a storage unit for all of our stuff? And then I said, like if we need a storage unit, maybe we just have too much stuff. Maybe we need to think about clearing things out, right? And really kind of having that conversation. But that can definitely be tough. So thanks for all the different ideas for things that you're using your meal plan for, that mind body health plan. Folks kind of talking about maybe keeping track of where Courtney's saying where in the world my kids are this week because they're so busy. So she likes to have a quick place to look to kind of see where they are. So lots of good ideas um, to kind of do different things. Or maybe it's a little reflection on the daily ritual. If you've been doing those in the app, you can give yourself a little reflection there in the meal plan. Lots of great ideas for how to use this. And again, the nice thing is we get a new week every week to fill this in. So if you try something out, it doesn't really work, doesn't really stick, you can always switch that out and do something different the following week. So I did want to point out, you probably saw on page 39, there's this currently page. So you might be thinking, what the heck do I do with this page? So some people like to fill it out. Since there's 3 lines, they will fill out the top line for the beginning of the month, the second line for middle month, and then the bottom line for the end of the month. So things that they're loving, how they're feeling, what they're enjoying, what they're anticipating, which is kind of like your bud and the rosebud thorn, what they're wishing, what they're reading. That's a good one to keep track of, kind of the different things that you're reading. And yes, audiobooks count as reading. So you might want to keep track of those things, what you're watching, and then what you're planning, right? So a nice little place to kind of keep track of things, have a quick little look back reflection, which this page is also really good if you fill this out when we do our end of year, when you can go back to each journal and kind of look to have a reminder, because sometimes I forget all the things that I do in a month. So just wanted to mention that page is there for you if you like to use this. Monica says that currently is her book tracker, and then when she finishes a book is when she completes each date in different color markers. So that's a great idea to do that as well. So we love it if you can share your pages, your sections, what you do with these sections in Sonder Club. All of these examples came from real life Sonder fam, just like you. And you never know who you're going to inspire when you post pictures. You don't have to, obviously, it's only if you feel comfortable, but we love to see those in there. So please feel free to do some screenshotting and or take a little picture and post them there. Also, just a quick reminder, this Thursday is our exclusive event for the DISC personality type. And I think Bailey can pop in some links on there as well for you. If you haven't signed up for that yet, there is a small fee for this one. It is expert led. It is an exclusive event. So it's not things that are in your journal. It's something different, but you can take the DISC personality test for free. You shouldn't have to pay for it. I think they have like once you take it, it'll give you like the basic information, and then it will give you an option to pay for a more detailed. If you have, if you pay for this but you can't attend the event live, they will send you a recording. So you will get that in the email, because it won't be on the YouTube, because it will only be available for those folks who have purchased the event. But yes, they will send you a recording if you're not able to make it live. Obviously, live is fun. It's more fun because you can be there in the chat, but recording works as well. So just keep that in mind. And if there's ever an exclusive event that you didn't get to register for in time, like the fairy tale one, I think from last month, you can always send an email to hello@silkandsonder.com, and they can send you the recording if you pay the fee. So just know that is an option as well. So thank you all so much for being here. We loved spending some time with you, being able to work on our pages, getting things set up. Planning is such key to having a successful week. So I hope you're feeling like you're ready to dive into the week. So have a great week, and we will see you all again very soon.